I'm Jason Sylvia, and this is the Creative Capital Show. A show about creative people and how those creative people turn into entrepreneurs by taking their creativity and turning it into a business and facing all the trials and tribulations along the way. What goes on behind the scenes when it comes to content creation? How can I utilize content to create my own personal brand? Is there a formula to going viral? Should I post content all the time? And also, where should I go to get dinner? If you have ever asked yourself any of these questions, then this episode's guest, Laura Afonso, may have some answers. Laura is the owner and founder of Buns and Bites, a food blog that features food and butts. However, Buns and Bites is much more than that. In Laura's own words, it's a concept based on self-love, eating food we enjoy, and embracing our bodies just the way they are. That concept turned a humble food blog into an award-winning, food-focused content creation powerhouse, as well as a social media marketing company that caters to small businesses. In this episode, Laura talks about the work behind the scenes that goes into content creation, why social media value doesn't always translate into monetary value, the myths behind social media marketing, why your content should always be in your voice, her thoughts on Rhode Island's culinary prowess, and why she hates the word influencer. And to think, all of this started by going out to dinner and taking some cheeky pictures. Enjoy. Yeah, way back when, this ain't nothing new.
Pioneers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Laura Afonso, for those that may not know what you do, what would be like the quick elevator pitch just to get folks acclimated while they're listening to this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Buns and Bites is my food blog that I started in 2017. But it is not your run-of-the-mill, not your average, not your normal food blog. Buns and Bites is a cheeky play on trying really great food, loving your body, being a woman, being, embodying everything that makes you feel good, and just like having fun and like not taking yourself too seriously, enjoying things that make you happy. And food, for me, makes me really happy. And, I do my best to stay local and incorporate things that I enjoy. And butts happen to be one of them. So butts, food, buns, and bites.
Who doesn't enjoy butts?
We all enjoy butts. That's the thing. We all enjoy them.
No, I feel
we
like
all have one.
I feel like we're all like Tina from Bob's Burgers. We all enjoy butts.
Yes.
Of all shapes and sizes.
Absolutely. And that is what Buns and Bites is all about, is encouraging self-love, and, taking a look at I think that we're all kind of, I don't want to get too far like off topic right off the jump, but a lot of us are on social media. We get to see a lot of things that aren't real or not in our reality. And when we're looking at ourselves, it's very easy to get carried away and be hyper self-critical. So I try to encourage ourselves to love our bodies and love all shapes and sizes. And we put that all under Buns and Bites.
I'm waiting for you to do the collaboration with Bob's Burgers, where either like you get animated into an episode and like you're like Tina's friend that also likes butts, or like you get to like review like an actual Bob's Burgers style restaurant.
Oh my God.
Fox, Bob's Burgers creators, H. John Benjamin and all them. Like
Fox, call me.
Yeah, if you're hearing this,
yes.
The theme in the episode writes itself.
BBBB.
Yeah.
Buns, Bites, Bob's Burgers.
There you go. And actually, funny enough, referencing, this is shameless self-promotion now already, but referencing the Amber Jackson episode, Amber also of the Black Leaf Tea Company, which you should check out if you haven't.
Absolutely.
If anybody's listening to this. And she was like, yeah, I would actually love to do a burgers and like a Bob's Burgers podcast.
Yeah.
There you go. That could be a 3-way collaboration.
That's the segue.
Get all three of us, and we'll just go to different burger spots and talk about a Bob's Burgers episode that we like.
While we're eating burgers.
While we're eating burgers.
And butts.
Yes.
Well, we're encouraging butts. We love butts.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Because we're all like Tina.
That's right. At the end of the day.
Before the social media, before Buns and Bites, before any of this, from what I understand, and for those listening outside of Providence or outside of Rhode Island, first off, thank you. Second off, how the hell did you find this podcast? And but thirdly, you're a Rhode Island girl, just
through and through,
Providence, born and bred. Went to classical.
Yes, sir.
Went to New England Tech.
I didn't go to New England Tech, but I worked at New England Tech.
Oh, okay. All right. You went to URI?
Went to URI, went to Providence College. Okay. So all of Rhode Island. Very Rhode Island.
And and we both have something in common. You're full Portuguese, correct?
Portuguese, yes.
And I'm half
Portuguese. Lots of Portuguese in Rhode Island.
Yeah, lots of Portuguese in Rhode Island. Lots of it's either Azorian or you're from the mainland. That's a question you'll get in Rhode Island.
Yes,
very Rhode Island. It's a very Rhode Island centric episode. Even more so than other episodes, people.
Good.
So when you were growing up, also you were an athlete. You did figure skating, right?
I did do figure skating, yes. So I grew up doing figure skating when I was a small child. My mother said that she wanted my sister and I to learn how to swim, ski, and ice skate. Let's take one lesson of all of these three things so that you have the ability to do it. I mean, I was a kid, I took swim lessons at the YMCA. I learned how to swim there. She put me in learn to skate so I could just know how to stand up on ice skates. And the same thing with skiing. We went to Yagu Valley in Exeter, went down the bunny slope a few times. So you get the idea of how to do it. Should you ever want to do it again? But ice skating kind of stuck. I really liked it. My sister and I both did it together. So we just kind of carried that one out and continued to learn how to figure skate, took lessons, passed the tests. I was on a ice skating team. So I did it for 22, 23 years. So it was a part of my life for a really, really long time.
So with that, did the passion for food and going out to eat and things like that, was that a family thing? Did your family go out to eat a lot? Or was that happening in your childhood or in your high school years? Or was that not really present until later on?
No, it wasn't really present until later on. I would say post college, even when I was in college, I wasn't this crazy, I wasn't what I would say a foodie, and I don't really like being labeled as a foodie. Everybody's a foodie. You enjoy food. You're a fucking foodie. Also, should I not curse? Am I not allowed to
you can
curse?
say whatever the fuck you want.
Okay. Yeah, so I would say that honestly, I think that Providence and the scene here has really changed. We can all agree, if you are from Providence or you've spent a lot of time in Providence, over the last 10, 15 years, Providence has gone through a lot of changes, a lot of development, a lot of it's gotten a facelift. It's really had a nice glow up. So I think that with that, new restaurants have come out. And as the food scene really started to develop, I liked to just go out to eat more and just try new restaurants. And there was a point where I was like, wow, I wish that my hobby should just be going out to eat. I just enjoy a nice dinner. The luxury of being able to go out to eat is what I enjoy the most. And there were points where I was like, oh, I wish that I could have a food blog. I wish that I could just document where I go out to eat. My dream job would be to just be on TV eating food and just document all the best places to eat. That would be the ideal dream job.
So the Phantom Gourmet?
Yeah, Phantom Gourmet, Andrew Zimmerman, things like that, where you're just eating cool foods that you might not have found out elsewhere. So that was always oh my God.
So you can tell we're recording in the city, folks, because there's just
dirt bikes everywhere.
Yeah, just so many dirt bikes.
They're out. They're back for the season.
They're back for the season and for attention for God knows what.
Yes. Be careful when you're on the roads. But yeah, so anyways, that was kind of my dream job. And I feel that was maybe 2014, 2015. I vividly remember sitting at like Waterman Grill and being like, wow, I wish that like I could do this every day. Like I wish that I could just get paid to like go out to eat. That would be like the coolest thing ever. And, you know, so it's not even something like that I grew up with. I remember like when I was in college, I thought that like a nice meal, like a meal that I would treat myself would be like Panera Bread. That was like oh my God, if I'm a broke college kid, if I have enough money this week, I'm going to get like a bread bowl from Panera Bread. But like today, I wouldn't do that. You know what I mean? I feel like my taste is elevated because I've been exposed to such good food. Not to knock a Panera Bread bowl because, you know, I'm sure lots of people enjoy them and they're still good, but.
I wonder if this coincides with, because it seems like there was a time just from like the internet and social media and like what it was at that time. And you feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, when like it was like the time of blogging, like the height of blogging.
Yes.
More written word blogging than videos, even though there were video blogs that were around and like YouTube was around, but not in the version we know it as today.
Absolutely.
So do you think it was that climate though, like where it was like food blogging, like everyone wanted to have a food blog? Like, again, the bizarre foods, Andrew Zimmer, and then you had like the food challenge shows, and then you had Anthony Bourdain was like at his height, and then also food trucks were just everywhere.
Yes, they were.
Like everyone had a food truck apparently at some point. Even restaurants that didn't have a food truck were like, we just need a food truck to have one because. And again, more dirt bikes. That's not a food truck pulling up. That would be hilarious if it was, though.
Like it's actually a food truck.
Like it's going 90 for some reason.
It's flipping a wheelie.
Yes, it's doing a wheelie, and like for the love of God, hopefully no food fell out.
Yes.
But do you think that just having that climate where it was like on TV, in media, both internet, print, like, do you think that had like had that not been the climate at the time, do you think the idea of like I would want to do this for a living even entered like your head, or do you think it may not have happened?
I think that it would have happened no matter what, because it wasn't so much about like being in the eye. It could have been like an anonymous thing. I could have been like an anonymous writer, food critic. Like the idea of being a food critic, it was centered in like getting to eat good food and like having access to really, really good food. So it's less about saying like, oh, you know, I want to be like on TV. It was more so like, I just want to have really good meals all the time, every day.
So now, like one would think, oh, maybe she went to school for culinary because we do have Johnson and Wales here, which is a very known well-known culinary school, very well-known culinary program.
Absolutely.
Yet that was not what you were going to school for. You were going for, and I'm just making sure I got my notes right here, because I try my best, people.
Of course, I appreciate that.
Bachelor's in speech language pathology at URI, and then a master's in educational counseling.
That's correct.
So you were trying to help kids when it comes to like counseling and where they should go in school?
Yeah. So basically, I was one of those kids who came out of high school who wanted to get the college education, but I had no idea. I went in as an undecided student. And when I was at URI, I was like, to be completely honest, I was like, I hate math. What majors? Like, let's eliminate all the majors that are like heavy math. So what am I left with?
Yeah, the less numbers, the better.
The less numbers, the better. I absolutely hate it. It's not my strong suit, and I'll be completely honest. So I had a couple options, and looking at those options, just like what appeals to me. Like, do I want to go into PR? Do I want to go into marketing? Which honestly, looking back at, would have been very helpful given what I do today, had I gone into marketing or PR. But at the time, I wanted to be working with the public. And I felt that speech language pathology, since that realm of work works with everything from infants to geriatric, that is the path that I chose. So my bachelor's degree is in speech language pathology. I chose to not pursue a master's degree in that field because it was highly competitive, and I think I cried many, many times in my counselor's office while I was at URI because I just felt like I wasn't cut out for it. Even though I had good grades, I was on the dean list. It was so competitive. The stress of even the thought of applying to grad school for speech language pathology was just like out of the question for me. So I kind of gave up on that dream. And, but I like being a student. I like learning. And a friend of mine had gone through the program at PC. for educational counseling, and it seemed like it would be a good fit. I wanted to continue my education, have a master's degree, and again, like I was at this point like on a path of like, where do I want my career to go? Like, where could I see myself working? Like, where do I want to be? And at the time, the idea of working in a higher education setting and like working with students, I thought about myself being an undecided major, having no idea what I wanted to do. Like, I could hopefully maybe help a student like myself and say like, okay, like let's sit down, let's explore your options. I ended up working in college recruitment.
Is that where New England Tech came in?
That's where New England Tech came into play. So I was working at New England Tech after grad school in college recruitment. So I was traveling out to high schools, going into the classroom, going into the counseling offices, and talking to students and bringing them into New England Tech. That was my job for a couple of years.
And so I'm noticing that it went from that to director of partnerships at Go Local Prov.
Yes.
Can you just talk about that for a little bit? Because I think that's interesting. I think that actually, there must have been some skill sets you took from that you're able to utilize now.
Absolutely. So I had been a guest on the food segment for Go Local Prov.
Okay.
Talking about Buns and Bites. So they had somebody who was running the food segment. They asked me to come on as a guest to just talk about Buns and Bites. So I did that. And maybe a few months later, they asked me to come on and run the food segment. So I did that. And I worked there just like the once a week, couple of hours running that food segment, which was fun. And then they basically offered me a position full time to work for them as their director of partnerships, which I did for a little under a year. And I left that company. And that's what I'll say about that.
So are there things from because it seems like the professional life was almost running parallel to Buns and Bites, and we'll get into the formulation of Buns and Bites, but before we do, just because I always find it interesting when sometimes like a person doesn't set out, like it wasn't like, oh, I always wanted to do this since I was a kid or in high school. Like they find something later on, or it runs parallel and then they make the switch. Because also you were a real estate agent, or you still are, or you were at some point.
Yes.
Okay.
I still am.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yes.
So there's that. And then also, Red Rooster.
Red Rooster, no.
All right, because maybe I got the wrong notes here. As a Red Rooster implementation training as a social media marketing consultant for them.
Oh, Red Rooster, yes. So that was a friend of mine who has a company, and I don't know if he is still doing it, as a matter of fact. But I would work with him, and we would basically like brainstorm things. But
gotcha.
I didn't really do much work with that.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Were there things from your professional life, maybe you didn't realize it at the time? When I say professional life, not that you're not that what you're doing now is not professional, but your professional life before Buns and Bites, or that was running parallel to it. Were there skills or things you picked up that, folks, you're going to be hearing motorcycles all day because it's the first nice day in Providence, so I apologize ahead of time. Were there things that maybe you didn't realize it then, or maybe you did, that you picked up, or skills from, being a recruiter for New England Tech and being a real estate agent and being, the director for Go Local Prov for that short time? And what were those things, and how did they transfer over?
To be completely honest, the skills that I have carried with me throughout and applied to every job, career portion of my life has not been from any educational background, any job that I've had in that realm. It's been from working in restaurants. So I have worked in restaurants for well over 10 years. You were
mentioning Matunic Oyster Bar.
Yeah, so I worked at Matunic Oyster Bar for 10 years. I had a few years of experience in restaurants prior to that. And all I can say is that the skills and the values that you pick up working in restaurants can be applied to literally any career path that one would choose. So if you're listening to this and you're like, I wish that I had better skills working with the public, communication, time management, multitasking, you name it, you can pick up, because you have to, or you won't succeed and you won't make tips and you won't make an income. You have to pick that up working in restaurants. And then you can apply those skills to every other job, career that you'll ever have. And when I was going into grad school, I was applying for a graduate assistant position so that I could be a GA on campus, get a free education. It was a great setup. That's what I did at PC. I worked on campus as a grad assistant, but applying to that job, I had to talk about my past work experience. And at that time I didn't really have anything between my undergrad and my grad school. I had only been working in restaurants. So I had to talk about how I can take my skills that I had in restaurants and how I can apply it to being for this job position that I'm applying for. And they were like, wow, that actually makes like a ton of sense. I can see how you being a waitress, the skills that you have we can apply it to like every one of the tasks that you're going to be assigned to in this job. So I would say that, yes, I did take a piece from everything. Like I can say things that I've learned in real estate, things that I learned at Go Local, things that I've learned at New England Tech, I can kind of apply them to everything that I do now and vice versa. But really, I think that like the basis, the core has been things that I've learned in the restaurant industry.
So I now want to touch upon the beginnings of Buns and Bites. But one thing that stood out to me when I was doing the research for this episode, something from the Club Ambition podcast.
Yes.
I want to make sure I got the name right. Also, shout out to the Club Ambition podcast.
Yeah, awesome.
The Danny Trejo episode was pretty damn
really
entertaining.
Good.
Yeah. Not that other episodes aren't. That's one of my favorites.
So
yeah. Like also just Danny Trejo. Is just
rad.
Protect him. He's a treasure.
Yes.
That you had stated, and I'm just going to paraphrase here, that you wanted to start this thing. You had the idea for Buns and Bites because who doesn't like butts?
Yes.
But that you were worried about, I don't want to say like necessarily fit, but it was like, hey, what if family or what if people I know years later, like what if this doesn't work out?
Yeah.
And years later, I'm like, oh, remember when like
yes.
you wanted to do that weird thing about the butts and the food?
Yes,
and like, so, was that more of a family related thing? Was that more of a personal thing? Like, where did that fear come from? If you could verbalize that.
It was more of a personal thing because my family has always been very supportive. From day one, they were like, yeah, honey, like you go, you do it, like whatever it is that you want to do. So it's not like oh my God, like personally, my family is going to be judgmental because they're not, but it was more so like on a personal, like angst, like nervous. This could be embarrassing if I do something. Like it could be anything. I could say I want to open an ice cream truck, and if it fails and I have to close it, it would be embarrassing. But this specifically because it was such like a weird, like kind of out there, very niche, very like you want to combine butts with food, like that is.
And this was what 2000, like because it started in 2017, so this was like maybe 2016 ish.
Yeah.
Okay,
right around there.
Because I was going to say the climate, not to interrupt. Sorry, the climate is now we think entrepreneurs are cool. Now we think making money, doing side hustles are cool. Now we think I know you don't like this word. I want to get into this later, but now like. Kids want to be an influencer rather than to be a sports star, right?
Right.
That thought process, that climate did not exist back in 2016. Right. So I wonder how much that played a part in it as well.
Yes. Well, at that time when I had this idea, I never would have thought that I would be sitting here on a podcast talking about having a business and making a business out of it. I did not think that that's where it was going to go. Like I said, I thought that this was going to be like, I considered going out to eat a hobby. It was something that I really enjoyed. I thought that maybe I would make an Instagram account that I would post food that I like to eat and that people would follow it and, maybe they would try that food too. But I never thought that it would grow to the extent that it has grown today and I'd be able to monetize it and turn it into a business.
So the vision when you were starting it out and maybe where some of that fear was coming in was like, hey, I'm just going to do this thing and make it a cool thing.
Or it could flop and it could be miserable.
And what's interesting about just from what you're saying is that, hey, I never thought it could be a business. So I'm guessing having it be a business wasn't the intention. So was the fear, was it just the fear of like, if I don't get enough followers, I'm just going to like look odd?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it wasn't even about like followers is going to equal
or I guess like gaining a following or something like that. If
it
doesn't
more
catch
of like
on,
what the fuck is this? Like
gotcha.
Like this is, which a lot of people are like, what the fuck is this? But it was not well received. Basically, like as soon as I launched Buns and Bites, as soon as I made my first Instagram post, I was met with a lot of support and people who were like, hell yeah, like this is awesome, this is fun, this is different, it's cool, I love it, happy to support you with what you're doing. But if I had not been met with that and it was like, like what the fuck is this? Like what does she think she's doing? Who does she think she is? Which obviously we all have negative self-talk in our heads. And that was my fear. That was like what if people hate it? What if people are laughing at me and making fun of it? That's like, that kind of like that voice in your head that's going to talk you out of doing whatever the idea is that you have. Like that's what I was telling myself.
So I'm so glad you said that because was there a moment, or was it a series of moments that made you change your mindset, that you were like, screw it, I'm going to do the first post? Because some people stay in that mindset and they never do it. So
Yeah.
was there some kind of like catalyst or something that happened where you switched your mindset and you're like, I'm just going to go for it?
Yeah. So I had the idea for Buns and Bites for a while, and I used to I told like my closest friends and family, like, oh my God, I have this idea. Like, what do you think? A couple of my friends and family were like, that's kind of out there. Not going to lie. Like, just to be completely honest with you, I think that's kind of weird. Most people were very supportive and were like, hell yeah, that's fun and kooky and like cute. Like, just do it. So I had the idea for a while, like at least a year. But I was like, no. Like, I can't do this. Like, it's too weird. It's too out there. People are going to laugh at me. People are going to make fun of me. It's going to fail. It's going to flop. Like, all that negative self-talk was basically just keeping me from doing it. I read a self-help book called You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. Awesome, fun book. And it just basically like talks about like doing that thing that you want to do, and like, you know, her story of overcoming her obstacles and just deep diving into that. And as soon as I closed that book, as soon as I finished the last page, I said, fuck it, I got to really go and do this, because like, what is the worst that can happen? People are going to laugh at me. Like, so what? So that day I literally closed the book. I was sitting on my couch. I remember this very clearly, sitting on my couch. I got up, I went to Best Buy. I bought a Canon Coolpix or Nikon Coolpix camera. And it was like the cheapest camera that was like a nice camera.
It's like the cheapest DSLR.
Yeah. I don't even know if it was a DSLR. I have no idea. I don't even know. But it was like a camera with the lens didn't even just attach or reattach, whatever that means. I don't know.
So the lens wasn't detachable.
No.
Gotcha.
But it was like a nice enough camera that I was like, okay, because if I'm going to do this, I have to have good content, which is funny that I say that, because now I look back on the content that I made in 2017 and I'm like, oh my God, wow, thank God my content has gone better from that. But at the time, like, that was still good content because people weren't making content the way that they're making it today. So that being said, I was like, I got to do this right now. Like, I'm just going to pull the trigger. I'm going to do it. I'm going to buy a camera. And I had a plan set in place where I was going to get a month's worth of content, where I was going to get 30 posts ready to roll, drafted before I made post number 1. So that way, while I was continuing to make content, I had a backlog of content to carry me through, so that I would never have to have a lapse in content. So I basically like went to 30 restaurants, bought 30 meals, took 30 pictures and had them ready to go. And from when I posted the very first time, I think it was like April 21st, 2017. I've never, not that I've posted every day since then, but I've never taken like a break where I was like, okay, I'm going to take some time off from Buns and Bites. Like, it's just been a straight power through for the past like 6 years.
So a couple of questions there. That making that initial content, I'm guessing it was just restaurants you really loved.
Yeah.
Did you get any like, because, and I'm only asking this because now we have phones that can take really good pictures.
Yes.
So it's like somebody having their phone out and taking a picture of a thing. It's like a normalized thing now.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm assuming you had this really nice camera and you're taking that out to, like, did anybody was like, what do you like? Did anybody ever ask? Did anybody from the restaurant ever ask, like, what are you doing? Like, are you a food reviewer? Like,
yeah,
are you a secret customer or something like that?
Yeah. And it wasn't the camera. It was me putting my butt on the table that made people be like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah, that'd be a question.
Yeah.
Why is that person's butt on the table?
Yeah. And it's so funny because when I was getting that months of content, so I hadn't even started yet. So I didn't even have the Instagram to say like, oh, go check out my Instagram so you can kind of get an idea of what this looks like.
Going around to restaurants.
I'm going around to restaurants.
I'm
making my content. This was when Providence Bagel had like just opened. I think that they had opened like maybe 6 months prior to this. So they were a brand new business. And I went in there, ordered a couple bagels. I had my camera. I was taking pictures of it. My husband was with me. I was having him take pictures of me, take pictures of my butt with some bagels. And the table next to me was 2 men. And one of them was like, excuse me, like, I hate to bother you, but like, can I ask like what you're doing? And I was like, I'm starting a food blog. It's called Buns and Bites. It's going to be foodies and booties. And I explained to him the concept and he was like, wow, that's like pretty awesome. You know, I'm the owner actually. This was Chris Wojteka, who is to this day a great friend. And he was like, I think that that's awesome. And so Chris Wojteka has supported me and been like an encourager from day one, since before Buns and Bites even really started. So he'll forever be in my heart forever.
So so you had enough content ready to go.
Yes.
What made you, so a couple questions here. First, what made you choose Instagram as a platform rather than having like because like, or, you know, thinking back to that time, like why Instagram over Facebook? Why not have like a website and have it be a full-fledged food blog like the other blogs out there? Why was it like Instagram is where I want to put my eggs in that particular basket?
Yeah. I mean, at the time, it was Instagram or Facebook. And if you can believe it, at the time, Instagram only had square photo only.
And this is also before Facebook bought Instagram.
This was pre
pre-Facebook
merger
buyout, pre-merger.
Yeah. So basically, like, I just didn't really like Facebook like that.
Gotcha.
And I could tell that, like, at that time in 2016, 2017, that Facebook was like starting to turn into like
the Facebook we know now.
Yeah. Not that it wasn't quite that extent. I did still use it, but like I liked Instagram so much more that I would just prefer to put everything on Instagram. And at that time, Instagram had no tools. There was no stories. There was obviously no reels, no lives, no, like there was nothing. There wasn't even portrait style photos. It was just the square. Photo. So you were very limited in what you could do, but that is the platform that I wanted to be on, was Instagram.
Now you had enough content ready for, you know, X amount of days. That first post because to my knowledge, it wasn't like here's my personal and then I turned into Buns, but like from the get-go it was Buns and Bites.
Yes.
So can you talk through what made you decide, because you have all this kind of ready to go, this is going to be the first one out the gate? Like what made you decide this is how the first post is going to look? It's going to be this picture with this text. Can you just walk through that? Yeah.
So I had all my content. I think I honestly wish I could remember exactly which post was my first one, but I think that it was my first three were Providence Bagel, Coolix Creamery, and I think that the third was Carrie Cupcake, Sweet Indulgence. And so basically I had picked my favorite of the pictures and made my first post saying like, welcome to Buns and Bites, a place where we embrace body positivity. We love our booties. We have fun. We eat the food we want to eat. And like every body has a place to be represented here, basically. Because I knew that at the outset, I wanted to work with other people, to have other booties be in the mix, and really wanted to have representation of different body shapes, sizes, all people represented, so that when you're on Instagram and you're scrolling through your feed, you can see on Buns and Bites somebody who looks like you, if that makes sense. But I made the introduction. I started making my posts, and yeah, it kind of just naturally rolled from there, where I would go to restaurants, I would create new content. And in the beginning, I was heavily reliant on my husband, my friends, my sister to come with me and make the content with me, because obviously I need someone to take the pictures of me. And I could try to set up a tripod. It was really, really hard to do. But luckily, my friends and family were very supportive and came out and took pictures for me, with me, all the above.
So of those first posts or those early days, was there a certain post that like, hey, it's like the count or the likes or whatever are going up and up and up, and then all of a sudden like one just spikes and that like I guess puts you over the moon, so to speak? Or was it just always like a steady uptick?
It was always a steady uptick. Like I want to say that at this point, like I gained 10,000 followers every year. Like if I do the math right now, I'm at just over 60,000 followers. I've been doing this for going on 6 years. So if I, some years better than others, but around 10,000 followers every year. But I would say that with the introduction of Reels in the past 2 years, Reels have definitely helped the growth of my platform. And that's where I've seen a spike and a bigger increase in following was with Reels, and then also joining TikTok, because people that would see my content on TikTok that didn't know about my Instagram then went over to Instagram and followed me there. So I have seen a greater surge of followers with those two pieces. But yeah, I think that like over the years, it had been like a slow and steady growth of like consistently plugging away, like making the content that I made, changing how I made the content. Like I started working with photographers. My content got better, got cleaner, got more attractive. And then I think that there was like actually a point where like my content, my engagement kind of plateaued. I think that it was like, before Instagram started to introduce like more of the tools. And then basically like once they started like adding the stories, adding reels, adding all of those other things, like using those tools, obviously Instagram wants you to use it. And in my opinion, they reward you if you use it, at least in the beginning. I think that really like helped kind of give me a little bit of a boost over time.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Your first post where you got paid like by the restaurant that you were, I guess that you were at or making the post about was Rogue Island?
Rogue Island was the first restaurant to offer me money.
Gotcha. Okay.
They were like, we love your content. We love like what you're doing. You clearly have like a following base. And at this point, I only had like a few thousand followers. Like I might have had sub 5,000. But they were like, no, we really support you. Like we believe in you. We believe that you have an impact, that your followers are going to listen to you. And they were just basically like, what's the price? Like, what's it cost? So that was the first, and I was like, what? You guys want to pay me? Like, that's kind of crazy. Like I said, I didn't think that this was going to turn into a business. I thought that this was more of just like a way for me to like have a fun creative outlet. So when somebody offered to pay me, I was like, wow, like that's sick, because I was just hoping maybe at some point making it to me like success in the beginning was seen as like a free meal. Like if somebody comps my meal, like I would consider like Buns and Bites is a success because I've gotten free dinners. So
how did you determine that pricing?
I mean, I don't like how I determined the pricing in the beginning. I just basically was like, okay, like threw a number out there, $50. Like, will that work for you? And they're like, yeah, sure. And over the time, obviously there have been times where I've thrown out pricing to people and they were like, no, that's too much. Or like, that's out of my budget. But in the beginning, I had no idea what to charge. What's the market? What's the rate? Like, what are other influencers who are getting paid charging? Like what?
And were there that many influencers within the local area that you could just like talk to and hit up and be like, hey, how much are you? Dot.
And honestly, I never would have thought that like beef amongst bloggers would be a thing. And it is competitive and people are weird. I've always been a friend of RI Food Fights. He's always been like a great like person in the industry who has been like, I'm going to be helpful with like, we can help each other. And like, I'm never going to be, like out to get you. Not that people are out to get you, but RI Food Fights has always been a person who's been supportive. While as I've felt like almost not animosity, but like weird tension between other food bloggers, which is weird. But yeah, it was hard to get a gauge on pricing. So like I said in the beginning, the first people were like, what's the cost? I kind of just threw out a number that I was like, yeah, like I'll come in and take pictures and post it for you for $50. And then as my following grew and more people started asking, I said, okay, like let's increase this little by little to make it relative to what you feel comfortable with paying that matches my followers. There has to be ROI. Like, are you going to pay me $100? Is that going to bring you more than $100 in customer sales? So I have to be able to prove those metrics. I can't say like definitely I can track how many customers are going to come through your door, but I can show you like how many people are clicking on the post, how many people are liking it, how many people are seeing it.
I have some questions about metrics and things later on too. So okay. I'm glad you're mentioning it now. That's going to come a little bit later.
Yeah. So obviously my pricing has changed a lot since the first person offered to pay me. But that being said, I offer a lot more now than what I did then. So now I work with a professional photographer. So when a restaurant is paying me, it's not just like, yeah, this is how much it costs for me to like put your content on my page. No, I am coming out. I am making my own content. It is my time. It is my signature content that is eye-catching, noticeable, being shared with 65,000 Rhode Islanders. And like, I think that that's a really important piece, that I'm not just somebody who has 1 million followers spread throughout the globe, that a restaurant in Rhode Island is trying to catch attention. This is hyper local. And I can show you my stats showing that the people who are seeing it are in Rhode Island and they're following me because they're looking for where the next good place is to eat. So like I couldn't possibly tell you a better base of where to find your next customer is through the Buns and Bites following. That's just a shameless plug. But that being said, now where am I going with this?
No, I think it goes to a couple of different things. But one thing I wanted to ask was when you had that first offer where somebody was like, "Hey, how much do you charge?" Was that the moment, or was there a different moment, or maybe a series of moments where you realized, "Oh, this can be a viable business"? Because you said you weren't thinking about that before.
Yeah.
So was that like, "Oh, I can possibly make a business out of this," or was there maybe a different moment where that clicked?
It took like a bunch of people asking me for my pricing before I was like, "Oh," I also just felt wrong asking people for money in the beginning, because I just felt not confident enough to be able to.
Was there, not to interrupt, was there ever a time where you were, even after that first paid one, that you were reaching out to restaurants, like thinking like, "Oh, I can charge this," or did that never happen? Was it always people coming to you?
It's for the most part been always people coming to me.
Okay, gotcha.
Now, where I am now, every once in a while, if there's a restaurant that I really want to work with, I will try to connect with them and send them my pricing. But like I said, I'm not just saying like, "Hey, do you want to pay me to come in?" It's a lot more than that. I have deliverables that I'm giving the restaurant. Like, you are paying me to come in to access my following, as well as you're getting professional photos that you're now able to use on your social media. So you're basically getting like a 3 for 1. And I also always am happy to work within a client's budget, a restaurant's budget. So if you come to me and you say like, "Hey, I'm having a hard time. I'm looking for more engagement. I'm looking for more customers to come in the door. X is my budget. What can you do for me?" I might not say like, "Yeah, I can do all the bells and whistles," but I can at least do something for you, because my goal here is to work with small businesses, locally owned businesses, that if you're looking for help, then I'm here to help.
So I think there's a couple of different questions this can segue into, but just to, I think one immediate one that I think would be helpful and kind of pulling back the curtain, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Is, can you walk through the logistical process, just like a quick end to end, get as in depth or not in depth as you want, of like, I have this restaurant, I know I have a good product, but I need to get it out there.
Yeah.
How do they reach out to you? And I think you already answered the question of why they should reach out to you, because I could see why a person running a restaurant was like, "Well, I'll get somebody on the wait staff to just post a TikTok or a reel or something. That should do it, right?" Sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it doesn't. But can you just walk through the process of, okay, we know who Buns and Bites is, we know the reputation, I'm a restaurant, I'm reaching out to you. Just how does the process start? How do you walk them through, well, this is how it works? What is the process just from they reach out to you and then like the end of, I guess, the contract or the terms, like end?
Sure. So let me first start by saying that when restaurants are reaching out, especially today, restaurants are reaching out and just asking for my pricing. Restaurants that have marketing dollars to be spent, 10 years ago, those restaurants weren't obviously spending them on social media. They weren't calling a food blogger to post for them. They were putting those marketing dollars in other channels. They were putting them in print advertising, on the local news stations. They were putting them in the newspapers. There's obviously a lot of other avenues that people would put their marketing dollars in. And over time, that has shifted a lot towards social media. Not that those other avenues aren't great still, but it depends on the audience that you're looking to talk to.
That also depends on where's the eyeballs.
Exactly. So if you're looking to talk to millennials and you're looking to talk to people in 20 to 25 and the 35 to 45, where are they? And how are you going to get their attention? And that is why a lot of people have shifted to, okay, yeah, instead of our marketing dollars going to this channel that we have spent the past 10 years putting dollars into, we're going to switch and we're going to pay somebody to come in and create awesome content for us that's going to be shared on their platform, as well as content that we can use as well. So I'll say that as Instagram is a huge marketing tool today. And I think that people are still getting used to the idea of paying influencers, paying bloggers, paying people to create content for them, even though that is definitely the direction that it is only going to get bigger. That being said, when a restaurant reaches out to me, first of all, it has to be a restaurant that I like and I would eat at, because I do get people who reach out that are restaurants that I would not eat at. And so therefore I'm not going to go there. Because it's not just pay for play. Yes, I do have rates, but of course it is because it's my time. I'm paying a photographer and you're getting photos. But it's not just like hey, we want to cut you a check and to come in and show our food. If I don't like that food, or if it's a restaurant that I just would never go to, then I'm not gonna go and do it because I have to have a reputation to uphold. So that being said, a restaurant reaches out. I say, hey, I love this restaurant, or you seem to have awesome food, great vibes. Let's set up a photo shoot. We set up the photo shoot. Jackie, who is my absolutely rad, talented angel of a photographer, comes with me and we set it up and we plan which food items, which drink items we're going to be photographing. The restaurant prepares that food, usually like 4 or 5 dishes, couple of drinks, a whole nice spread. It looks beautiful. We take photos of it. We take photos of individual dishes. We take pictures of me with my buns. We take pictures of me eating food, interiors. So there's a lot of work that goes into the photo shoot. Now I'm taking videos. I'm making a reel. I'm making a TikTok out of it.
You're already answering my next question, so keep going.
Yes, perfect. So there's a lot of work that goes into the photo shoot. It takes anywhere from 1 to 2 hours, usually more closer to 2 hours. Maybe sometimes 3, depending on how long we're shooting the shit after we're done and we're eating and drinking and hanging out and getting to actually enjoy all that good food. So we take the time, we create the content. Jackie, since she is a booked and busy photographer, it takes her around a week and a half to 2 weeks to edit those photos. So the turnaround time from when I come in to do the pictures to when I'm actually posting it on Instagram is around 2 weeks, sometimes a little longer depending on what I have in my queue. If I've got other restaurants lined up ready to be posted, you go to the next in line. So 2 to 3 weeks, you can see that beautiful content that we've created on Instagram. I usually have a reel to post shortly after that, a TikTok to post shortly after that, so that you have a stream of content. You just don't have one post. You've got 1 to 2 to 3 posts.
Are you doing all the copywriting on the
yes
on the post as well?
Yes.
And how much does the not to interrupt your train of thought?
Yeah.
How much input does the restaurant have besides like when it comes to the visuals? Like, do they have input on or any control on like how the copy should be? Like, oh, we want you to word it this way or something like that. Does
Not
that ever
usually,
come up?
I mean, especially because it has to be in my voice and it has to be organic to like what I would say.
Okay, gotcha.
There might be like, for instance, a restaurant who might say like, okay, well, like we're having you come in to promote like a wine night or like a special or to promote our patio is now open for the summer. Can you please mention XYZ? I will mention that, but it's still going to be in my voice and it's going to be my opinion, what I liked the most, what I really enjoyed, to have, you know, my honest feedback on my experience there. But so I would say no, it's sometimes when we choose dishes, restaurants will say like, oh, this dish like is really, really good or looks really, really beautiful, is going to photograph nice. Like we definitely want you to use this dish. But I also usually look at the menu and say, okay, I definitely want these dishes as well because I would want to eat that and I want to feature that.
Another, and I actually answer a couple of logistical questions, but one logistical question that I just thought of is one person can only eat so much. So, and I've seen the post where it's like multiple plates and tons of food.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing with also like you have to get the lighting and the shots and then continuity. So like, do you take a bite, then you have to put it down and then you have to get like a new version of that plate to take another bite for continuity reasons?
No.
Or something like that? Okay. Because I was like, what if the food gets cold and gross because it has to sit there? Okay.
When we're eating the food, it's cold.
All right.
My
that was my other
husband is
question.
always
Like, what happens
like-
when it gets cold and gross? Like, do you just eat it? And like, okay.
So that's something that my husband always says because a lot of the time he comes with me to photo shoots. He's like, oh my God, all the food I eat is cold. And I say, oh, poor you.
Do you also give food away to people? Like,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So let me just say, the food never goes to waste. It's never going to
That's
waste.
good.
I can promise you. I promise you. I swear to God. I get this question all the time. You don't actually eat the food, or do you really eat the food? I had somebody ask it the other day, and it's a very tired question. I'm like very tired of.
Apologies for
answering
asking
it.
it.
No. And honestly, like you didn't ask it. Like, well, do you really eat the food? Because people are commenting on my body when they're asking me that.
Yeah,
they're saying,
I'm
well,
more thinking about like logistics of like setting up a shot and continuity. So like, let's say you take a like in just to not that I feel like I have to explain it, but just to kind of give you the reason of why I'm looking at it. Like, okay, let's say it's a pizza and you take a bite of the slice of pizza.
Now there's a bite taken out of the
now
pizza.
there's a bite taken out. So like, do you have to grab another of that pizza to like put it back in shot and then take the other pizza and then do like, is it weird spinning plates thing like that? Which I'm like, I'm thinking more from a production standpoint. I'm like, yeah, for those reasons, like that's got to be like does food actually go to waste because they have to keep reshooting and setting up and things like that?
No, so when we shoot food, as it comes out, Jackie will take a picture of every dish individually. So she'll usually take a picture of the pizza like on a nice wooden table by itself, and then we put it back. Same thing with the next drink. Same thing with the next dish. So she shoots everything individually. That way, the restaurant, when they want to use the photos and they want to post their pizza, it's not my ass in every photo. Like they have photos of the pizza, the cocktail, the wings that they can now use on their Instagram. And then once we have all those individual shots, we lay everything out. We photograph a flat lay of everything together. So it looks really cool, looks really beautiful. I get my shots that I want with my booty in it. And then at the end, when we're all done shooting all of that content and all the videos that I needed taken, then I sit down and we get photos of me eating the food. So the bites don't come until the end, until everything is already shot and ready.
Which makes sense because you would think when like food's going to look a certain way when it's hot and fresh out the kitchen, and you want those good product shots.
Yes.
Like going back to like the pizza's just an easy example for me.
Yeah, you can
like,
tell when the cheese is cold.
Yeah, like you're lifting the slice and the cheese stretches out.
Absolutely.
So like you have to get that shot, I would
right away,
first,
as soon as it comes out.
And then do the bite later, because the bite, it's like, all right, they're seeing you take the bite, but maybe it's not close up. So I could... Folks, I'm a nerd, so like, what do you want from
like,
me? So I'm thinking from like a production standpoint, like how does that work? Because that was like one of the things I'm looking at your post. I'm like, okay, do they do it this? Do they have multiples of the same plate? Like how does that all, so that nothing goes to waste, but also it looks good on camera when it's hot and fresh, because it's not like food commercials where like you're using glue to make it look like mayonnaise or any shit like that. And so it's like, okay, how does that all work? So I'm glad you're breaking this down in that sense.
Yes.
Of like, how does this all get planned out so that nothing goes to waste, but also it looks good depending on the context of the shot that you're shooting.
And that being said, if I wanted to get a shot, like if there's like mozzarella sticks or something really cheesy, anything really cheesy, like I'm going to get, once I break it open, like let's say I've got mozzarella sticks and I'm pulling it to get that cool, like really nice cheesy, cheese bridge, cheese pull, whatever you want to call it. Sometimes I want to, like, I get that shot at the end, but sometimes I also want to take a bite of me getting like a cheesy pull bite. So if at that point, that's going to come at the end because I can't take a bite and ruin that dish now. So I will have them like reheat the pizza. Like, I'll be like, can you pop this back? Like we already shot this. Now it's cold.
That was going to be my other question. Like, do you ever have to like have something be reheated just so you can get that shot again?
Every once in a while. But usually when something is cheesy and I want to get like a cheese pull on it, like I'll pick it up, get the cheese pull, get that shot. But then we move on to the next dish. And every once in a while I'll say like, oh, I wish I had like a cheesy bite of me taking a bite of that pizza. So like, do you think you could pop this back in just for a couple minutes to get the cheese melty again and I can get a bite of it? So it's not like we have to toss this, make a new pizza. It's like, let's just...
When do the drinks get shot? Because I'm only thinking from a cocktail perspective.
Watered down cocktails, they get
like the ice melts or the condensation, or if you're doing a shaken cocktail, that aeration in that foam that's on top is going to dissipate after a certain amount of time. So it's like, where do the drinks come in, or is that like another spinning plate that you're having to worry about at the same time as the food? Yeah,
I would say that usually the cocktails aren't like too problematic, like for the most part, only if there's like a, if it's a layered cocktail that has that like, that sugar content that you have to be mindful of and not settling, we'll shoot that right away. Especially if they're like, hey, like this does not sit long, please shoot it right away. We'll hop on it quickly. We'll prioritize that. We'll bump it up to the front of the line. But unless it's like an espresso martini that has like whipped cream on top or something that's going to like quickly deflate, it's usually like a non-issue. Like a lot of time it's like margaritas and things like martinis and things like that like we can put it out and it'll still photograph well in 10 minutes.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Another logistical question. So you're saying you have your photographer, you have your people now, and this is always an interesting question I ask from a growth perspective. At what point did you decide? Well, I guess it's a multi-point question. At what point did you decide? Yeah, I have to go beyond just the Instagram account. I need a website, and I can't do the photography. It can't just be my husband helping me out. Like I need to hire a photographer. Like, what factors played in? Because I think this is always interesting depending on who you talk to. What factors played into you going, I need to hand this off to someone else because I need more time to do other things.
Yeah.
And was there like a weird sense of like, oh, I'm losing control? You know what I mean? Like, because there's that part of it too. So how did you come to that decision of like, yep, I need to bring people in, let them take care of X, Y, and Z, and I go take care of A, B, and C?
Yeah. So I think that it was like kind of like a natural progression for that. I had a bunch of friends who were photographers who were like, hey, like, let's take Buns and Bites pictures. Like, I'll come and take Buns and Bites pictures. I had great friends, Mike Yeager. I've been friends with him forever. And like, he was like, hey, let's take some Buns and Bites pictures. So I think that like, once I got a taste of like nice photography, that I was like, oh my God, like this just, my like pictures just don't compare to this. And I think that like if I really want to up my game and like up my content and like just make it that much better and more standoutish, like anybody can take a phone and go and take a picture of a pasta dish and like, yeah, you can make it look good, but this looks so awesome. So I really like, I think that like once I got a taste of working with photographers, I ended up having like another photographer reach out to me and like want to work with me. So it was great. You know, I didn't work with her for too long, but then I had like a bunch of photographer friends like in my sphere. So I worked with a few people. When I started working with Jackie, it was just like a natural fit and like we became really good friends from working together. So she's like my main gal. But yeah, I think it was just seeing how nice the photography aspect of it looked. And then obviously once I was able to start making money from it, it was also an asset in the way that I can offer those services to the restaurant. So like I said, it's not just like, hey, can we pay you to post? It's like, can we pay you to post for your followers, for your photography, for
You're
XYZ.
offering a menu of services
Exactly.
rather than just, hey, let me do your
Yeah, the cost
post.
is X amount of dollars. It's to post you on my Instagram. I'm coming to make that content, which is why I have the following that I have. And you're also getting something out of it on the other end as well.
There's a saying, big things have small beginnings. And I'd like to think that saying applies to Laura and the story of Buns and Bites. In the beginning, Laura had a fear of judgment. What would people think of her cheeky food blog, especially if it failed? But she also had no idea or expectation that her blog would gain popularity and eventually turn into a successful, multifaceted business. She would have been perfectly happy just getting some free food from some restaurants she liked. What I'm saying is this: whatever idea you have, be willing to take that first small step. You don't need to have a grandiose plan or have everything laid out. Just be willing to start. Because if you don't, that fear of the unknown, that fear of judgment, will later turn into lifelong regret. I'm going to switch gears a little bit back and forth, but hopefully it'll make sense to anybody listening. One question I have is, trying to see if I can word this correctly. So we're in a time in social media where like even if you're just loosely affiliated with a brand or a business, if something bad happens with that brand, you are then, I want to say all the time, but you could be implicated like,
yeah,
oh, that awful thing they represent.
Yeah.
You now represent that too.
Represent that, yeah.
Even if like you worked at a time when like they didn't represent that or something something you have no control over. So, and like I guess I can reference like, I mean, FTX is a decent reference, but also there's like some other shenanigans there. But now like you got celebrities who are endorsing it being
Kim
indicted.
Kardashian, Balenciaga kind of situation.
Yeah, or the Pepsi, the tone deaf Pepsi ad thing.
Yes.
Has there ever been a and if you're able to talk about it, I don't know if there could be legal reasons, maybe you're not. Has there ever been a restaurant or somebody you worked with where either you thought at first, oh, and then you found some stuff about the business maybe on the back and we're like, I don't want to be associated with any of this, or you meet them and they want to like be control freaks and they, you know, want to change your voice, like they want to like have control over the copy. Has there ever been a situation like that? Or you did a post and then after you found some horrifying shit about them maybe a year or two down the line, like has that ever been something you've dealt with and how did you deal with it?
That's a great question. I haven't really had anything to that extent happen. There are plenty of restaurants that, like, for personal reasons, I don't fuck with and I won't go to. I'm never going to slander people on the internet, but I have some personal opinions on a handful of restaurants that I wouldn't work with if they paid me twice my rate. Like, I just don't like the ownership. I don't like the way they operate. For personal interactions that I've had with them, I would not work with them for any amount of money. And this is in our city, and these are people that, you know, I have mutual friends with, that I'm like, you know, I'm never going to tell people don't spend your money there, but, and especially because a lot of those reasons are personal. But yeah, I mean, I haven't had anything happen where, you know, a restaurant has had, like, you know, some scandalous thing happen where I'm like, I can no longer associate myself with that restaurant. And also, I do believe that all restaurants have, like, everybody has something. Like, there are, like, you could say, like, oh, like, the sous chef there, like, did XYZ to my friend. Like, you could say that about, like, any restaurant. So if you get to that point where you're like, oh, I can't go there now, you wouldn't be eating at any restaurant, because everybody has, like, something that they've done, if that makes sense.
Going along with that, I'm going to reference a previous episode with, actually it was the episode with Jen. We were talking about the beverages and the cocktail industry and products in the restaurant industry, and also another shameless self-promotion. Finish this episode first, then go listen to the Jen episode after. Just keep getting my numbers up, people. I need the help.
Yes.
But she made a good point about just the restaurant scene in Providence in general, where, you know, she's like, there are certain restaurants who, and I'm paraphrasing her, by the way, she's like, you can watch at, like, I guess the 5 or 6 o'clock hour, the Cisco truck going through Providence and where it's stopping.
Where it's going, yeah.
And it's interesting how, like, that Cisco truck will stop at a mom and pop place that only charges X amount, but it'll stop at another place that it's the same food on the back end. And this is not every restaurant, but in this situation, it's the same food on the back end, but one is charging way more than the other.
Yeah.
What do you think? What is your opinion on that? What do you think goes into that? Is it because are you just paying for the ambiance at that point? Are there restaurants that, I don't want to say like lying, but like kind of faking the funk, like they're presenting as one thing, but then when it gets down to the food, it's something else? Like, have you just from working in the industry and just doing this, like, either way, like, have you noticed that? Like, have you ever encountered that before? And like, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I mean, listen, all of these restaurants are getting, a lot of restaurants. Ooh, I've got a fucking Charlie horse. My leg. Sorry. All of these restaurants, a lot of restaurants are getting food from multiple distributors. A lot of restaurants are using Cisco. And there's nothing wrong with Cisco. Like, your favorite restaurant uses Cisco. A lot of your favorite restaurants are using Cisco. They carry a wide variety and different tiers of product. So yeah, I can order frozen mozzarella sticks, frozen chicken fingers, frozen beef patties from Cisco, and like put it on a menu and charge whatever I want to charge for it, and people could come and pay for it. Or I could be ordering like something good. I could be ordering my produce. I could be ordering different things from it and like elevating it because I have like the skill set to turn this bok choy into some really good dish. If that makes sense.
It does, and it leads me to like a not to interrupt your train of thought. It leads me to a sub question that also came from that episode where Jen was talking about how the markup on food is not what you think it is, and if anything, depending on where you go, the amount of time and effort, especially if it's like a farm to table restaurant, they actually should be charging more. And for whatever reason, we as consumers, regardless of where you have been conditioned in that, hey, like, this type of dish should only cost this much, and how dare you charge me more?
Yes.
Do you think that happens, and what do you think? And what do you think causes that?
Absolutely. Well, I think that like you could take the same thing from the back of a Cisco truck and give it to two different chefs, and like Chef A might just like make it whatever. Chef B might be able to elevate that, and that skill is where that money, like why that dish is going to cost more. One, it's better, and two, his skill is making it what it is. I'll never forget this. I was waiting in line at Whisk Me Away, which if you've never been to Morgan Gray's Bakery, Whisk Me Away, you definitely should because it is incredible. But she makes one of my favorite desserts I've ever had in my fucking life. And it is a blondie, and it is super thick. It is like almost 3 inches. It's like 2.5 inches thick, and it's crispy. And she puts candied walnuts in it and brown butter. And it is just like the perfect salty sweet dessert. Okay. and I'm waiting in line. And I think that I honestly can't remember off the top of my head what they cost, but I want to say that they're like I think there's probably like $4 or $5 a blondie, like the size of a regular brownie or blondie that you can imagine. And I can hear these women behind me talking, and they say, like, let's say that's $5. I hear them say $5 for a blondie. Like, what the fuck? Like, so expensive. Like, this is so overpriced. And I think that that's crazy because, of course, that blondie is worth $5. One, because Morgan's skill going into it is worth the $5. Two, the products that she's using, she's candying walnuts, she's browning butter. She's not just taking a box mix of brownie and selling it to you for $5 a piece. She's putting in good ingredients. She's making it with her skill, and it is incredible tasting. And I would pay more than $5 because it's that good. But I think that, like, if you're able to go to Stop and Shop and buy a blondie for $1, and you're like, wow, this blondie is $5. Is it the same? Like, no, Morgan has made that product to be worth $5, in my opinion.
So going along with this, you touched upon this earlier. There's definitely has been a change as two people who have born and raised Rhode Islanders and grown up in Providence. There's definitely been a change in the food and drink scene in Providence. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I think when it comes to food and drinks, when it's just the food and drinks, if we're just going plate for plate, drink for drink, ambiance and setting is a whole different animal. But when it comes to just the food and drinks alone, I think Providence punches way above its own weight class when it comes to that. What do you think contributed to that? Because I feel like now people are starting to catch on to the secret, you know, that like we're a really good food and drink city, but I feel like it wasn't always like that.
Yeah.
What do you think? What made this evolution?
Are you referring to like Providence as a city in comparison to other cities or other places in Rhode Island?
I would say just Providence in and of itself.
Yeah.
Like, I think we had good food, but then it's like at some point it just like evolved and it elevated.
It really
and
did.
like, and even now the choices we have, like I've had friends visit from other cities and they're like, dude, you're friggin' spoiled.
Yes.
Like you can throw a rock and hit a
yeah.
good cafe. You could throw a rock and hit a good brewery. You could throw a rock and hit a good cocktail place. Or there are certain types of food places where we don't have a lot. I think it's more of a regional thing.
Yeah.
But just in terms of just the general quality of restaurants, bars that are like not part of a chain, not part of like a huge group, like the standards are pretty high.
Yeah.
And it wasn't always like that.
Yeah.
So like, what do you think maybe led to where we are now?
I think that like the overall growth of the city, like the renewal, the glow up, as you would call it, of Providence, like it was all kind of, it's an accumulation of all of those things. So I can remember walking from Classical to Kennedy Plaza after school, and I would walk down Westminster Street, and it was a ghost town. There was no restaurants. There were no shops. There was no businesses. It was mostly rundown places that like you shouldn't walk down Westminster as a 14-year-old girl by yourself. It was just not the city that it is today. When you walk down Westminster in 2023, you've got some of the best restaurants in the city. You've got clothing stores. You've got cafes. You've got so much exciting things happening on Westminster Street.
And also other sections of the city too. It's like every neighborhood, like it's not just like every neighborhood has one good restaurant, one good bar. Right. It's every neighborhood has a street or multiple streets of multiple restaurants and good bars. And I feel like that's starting to spread into other towns as well.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's just like an interesting evolution.
Yeah. I use Westminster Street as an example because that sticks out in my mind of like, I remember walking down it. And granted, that was in 2009. But when we're here in 2023 and you can see how much the city has changed, I think that like once you start getting a few good restaurants, like you said, you get kind of spoiled and you're like, wow, this is really good. I'm not going to waste my time going to other restaurants that aren't as good as this. Like if this is the new standard, then like everyone else has to participate and hold up to this standard. And that's why I almost look at like other towns. I look at like East Greenwich, I look at Newport. And while yes, there's a handful of restaurants in both of those places that I think are like genuinely really good, there's a lot of restaurants in those towns that I would say like, okay, like this restaurant could be an East Greenwich 9 or a Newport 10, but if you put it in Providence, it's a 6. Like
that's another interesting thing too.
Yeah, because you're going to have a different clientele who is happy to, pay the price of an overpriced chicken parm in East Greenwich and say, oh my God, this was so good, but you haven't been to Rosaline to have their chicken parm yet.
I was going to ask like, what is the flip side of like, I get the whole, yes, that chef put X amount of love and skill into that blondie.
Yeah.
But then the flip side of it is places that I feel like I'm not going to name the spot, but I was in Newport, went to like the newest taco spot, and it was supposed to be really good. And I'm like, they're charging murder prices, and I'm thinking like Chilangos, shout outs to those guys. Chilangos would just slaughter this place, or like even some of the seafood spots where I'm like, Dune, like I'm like, all right. Another example. If Dune Bros existed anywhere near any of these other more kind of like fish fry type places, like if Dune Bros was in Point Judith, sorry if I'm getting into like Rhode Island Providence geography for folks who are not from here, but like Point Judith's an area where it's beach, but there's also two competing restaurants. There's Carrie's and George. No, not Carrie's.
Aunt Carrie's and Iggy's.
I was going to say Champlin's and George's.
And George's, yes.
If Dune Bros was anywhere near, they'd both go out of business. I'd call it right now. They'd both go out of business. I almost
disagree because, and here's why. Well, I won't say that I fully disagree. Dune Brothers is fantastic, and I think that they like crush both of those. But the clientele that is there in the summer, most of those people, or not most, but a lot of those people are tourists. And so they're just going to default to, oh, I used to go to George's as a kid, so I know that I can get a plate of clams there for this much money. I might as well just go there because I'm used to it. And that's what I think that we're seeing with a lot of like out of town, like outside of Providence. It's a different clientele, and I think that that's really contributing.
I'm glad you brought that up. I was actually, you took the word out of my mouth. I was going to ask. I wonder if those other places would survive just because the tourists or the people who like don't normally, even if you're in Rhode Island, you don't normally visit Point Judith. Like, you go there once a year. You just just remember that. And that's fine. And like, so I wonder how much that contributes to the whole, in this town, this place is a 10, but it's in reference to that town or that area. If you took that and put it and gave it some competition in a different part of the state or in the city, would it really be a 10? Yeah.
Like I have like, for instance, in Newport, like there's a list of places that I have that I like truly like. And especially like if I'm in Newport and I want Mexican food, like there are places that I'm like, this is good. I'm in Newport. I know that this food is good. Do I like Chilangos better? Yeah, I like Chilangos better. But I know that like if I'm in Newport, there's places that are solid that I'm going to really like. And like there are actually good restaurants in these places, because I'm not going to sit here and say like there's nowhere good to eat in Newport. There's nowhere good to eat. I could go to Justo in Newport and it's going to be fantastic and it would stand up in Providence, no problem.
Oh, they give me one of the best cocktails ever. And also, just brief but necessary aside, I have nothing against Champlin's or George's specifically, but I'm just saying if you're going to take their fish and chips from both of those spots and then put the fish and chips from Dune Bros, and I did a taste test, I'm going to pick Dune Bros. Like,
yeah,
sorry, Champlin's and George's.
It's quality. It's just a different experience too.
It definitely is.
Overall. Yeah, absolutely.
Also, Dune Bros is kind of cheating with all the fries cooked in beef fat. I don't know if it's cheating, but like it's definitely an edge.
Yes.
It's definitely an edge.
It makes it that much better. It's so good. Yes.
Another, so to pivot away from the food part of this and more into the content creation, the marketing side of this, because that is the business you're in.
Yes.
Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong.
No, it is.
So one question I want to ask, because you are working with businesses, and I think this is something we've seen on social media where it's, before it was like you could be, and I know you don't like this term, and I want to bring this up later too. You could be an influencer, and before you could do a post for somebody, and I forgot who did it. It was like some famous, wasn't even an influencer, it was a famous person, but they got paid to do a post, and like they literally copy and pasted the entire thing.
Yeah, the email that they wanted to put.
Yeah, and I'm just like, how lazy can you be?
I think it was Scott Disick.
I think it was Scott Disick,
and it was like, hey Scott, like please say that you love Bang Energy, and he like copied it, so the caption said like, hey Scott, please say that you.
Yeah, I'm like, and it was now you have to like note that it's like a paid ad or whatever.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on organic traffic versus pay like buying ads? Is there So like, is that like, are both great, or is there like disadvantages, advantages to either one?
Yeah. Like on behalf of a business, like if a restaurant was saying like, I want to I want to pay for an ad through Facebook or Instagram. I think that there are, in my personal opinion, I think that there's upside and downside to both. You know, if you're saying, okay, we've got Easter coming up, we want to promote Easter catering on Facebook, so we're going to pay to have an ad on Facebook. Yes, it will be successful. You will reach more people, and you probably will have a good ROI on that. That being said, I think that like having the option to boost posts on Facebook and Instagram, unless you have something specific in mind, I think that just saying like, I want more followers, I want more engagement, I'm going to boost this post. Like if I were to say like, I'm going to boost the post that I just made on Buns and Bites, I think that in the long term, that's going to hurt me because, and this is just from my experience. I've talked to other people in this industry that disagree with me, but I used to do that. I used to say like, oh, I want more engagement. So I'm going to put $5 behind this. I'm going to put $10 behind it so that it gets pushed out to a broader audience. And hopefully I'll get more followers and more engagement. But I think that once Facebook knows that you're willing to pay, they're going to say, oh, okay, if you want that engagement again, you better open the wallet.
Oh, we're going to have some good questions on the back end of this stuff.
Yeah.
Coming up in a bit.
I do think that like I said, if you're a business and your goal with a paid promotion is to do something very targeted and specific and to bring customers in, great, you should do that. But I think that if you're trying to pay to boost your posts to get more engagement, it's not like you might see an influx in that moment, but like on the other end of it, you might very well possible. I'm not going to say like definitely, but I know that I did see a drop in engagement because Instagram is now going to hold your content to say like, oh, you liked that, didn't you? You liked that engagement. You want to have some more? You know where we are. You know where the check goes.
We're gonna get into a little bit of a discussion about that.
That's my opinion on it.
So I do have a question just to pivot a little bit. I know you don't like the term influencer. So multi-part question here. Especially with now kids want to like, they're like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Johnny or Jenny? I don't know why I named Johnny or Jenny.
And Jenny.
They're brother and sister. They both want to be influencers.
Yes.
Whereas before that wasn't, and and I could see that because, as things evolve, as technology evolves, new careers, new career pathways, new ways of making money arise. So I don't blame a kid for wanting to be that. Why do you, I'll start off with the first part. Why do you dislike the term influencer?
I dislike the term influencer because I personally feel like it has negative connotations around it. And for me to call myself an influencer makes me feel like I am like holding myself to be like in high esteem, which like, I think I look at my platform as successful. I'm very proud of it, but I'm not going to sit here and be like, I'm super, super important. And everyone like thinks that I'm a celebrity. I'm important. And like, in my opinion, like that's the direction that you're going when you're calling yourself an influencer.
Now that's interesting because this was going to be later on, but I'll ask it now because I just to keep on this subject. It seems like there's been a backlash against influencers, or at least like this negative connotation. I feel like even more so now because we're in the I forgot who said it. It was another like good YouTube channel. They're like we're in the golden age of the grift when it comes to both influencers, millionaires, celebrities. Like everyone's grifting everybody.
Yes.
And now it's like starting to get shut down. Thankfully,
yes.
I say starting like we got a long way, but at least it's like starting to get like crypto bros. Everyone like it's the golden age of the grift.
Yep.
Do you think that the term influencer, the idea, because like kids still want to be influencers, right?
Yeah. Influencer today is modern day movie star. It's all it is. It's a celebrity.
Now, there is backlash against celebrities too, but do you think that the idea of influencer having a negative connotation is a more recent thing, or do you think it was like that from the beginning? Like, was it an evolution of like,
I think it was
push back against it?
And I honestly think that like the term influencer started to like, and this is honestly from my perspective, because I think that like everybody might have a different, like they might see it at a different point than when I started to notice like, ooh, influencer is kind of like a bad term, is when like it started to come out that like flat tummy tea is actually really bad for you. And all of the girls that were trying to sell you flat tummy tea were lying. And they really just don't even drink that.
And
they were just being paid
like,
to say that
like
they
how
drink
much
that.
did they know? How much did they not know? Like same with the another parallel to really get to bring it to today, or depending on when you listen to this, maybe this is years ago. But the whole there's a lot of personal finance YouTubers, and personal finance is really hard to like give generalized advice because it's personal and everybody's situation is different.
Of course.
But all these people who did sponsored with FTX, and even it was the guy from Shark Tank, like he got grilled on the Daily Show, which he should, because he was a guy on Shark Tank that would like rip apart every other business, and you're like, you mean to tell me like you couldn't? And I wish I could remember the guy who comes from Mr. Wonderful or whatever. that guy. But him, like,
Oh yeah, I did see that.
yeah,
I did see
so
that.
because he would be the first guy to, like, at least on camera during Shark Tank, like,
yeah, he would
like call somebody name, like who's to say, like, why is you? I could just be a competitor and take you out right now. Like, this is not a good business plan. Yet he couldn't see FTX and the fraud that was Sam Bankman-Fried, and then other people were seeing it. Yet you have these guys, these guys and gals in suits on a phone call with the leader of FTX who's playing video games, and they're just like, this guy's a genius. He cares so little that he must be smart. And then even with personal finance YouTubers that were promoting it, now that, like, everybody's calling for their heads, like, how much did you know? Like, I lost my life savings. Like, you only lost play money. So, like, there's a parallel there between that and, like, the flat tummy tea and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, but was that always I guess, was that always that sense, or, like, did influencers always kind of, like, know, or, like, how, like, can you prove how much they knew and they didn't know, like, that the product was bad, like, that kind of thing? I feel like this is, like, a more recent phenomena of influencers maybe not being in on it, but just not giving a shit, that, or, like, not using the product to the point where, like, they don't really know the effects of it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, like, it depends. Obviously, like, flat tummy tea is not nearly as serious as losing all of your money to
unless
FTX.
it gets you sick, or, like, something like
honestly,
that.
And that's really what it is. That's what people were fighting. They were like, oh my God, my favorite influencer told me to buy flat tummy tea, but really it just gave me the shits. So,
or the one who was, like, claiming that she cured her own cancer.
Oh my God.
And then it didn't.
Because
Like,
this is going to spiral into, like, like you said, the girl
Yeah.
on TikTok, and she claimed that she had cancer and raised all this money. And I mean, now she's going to jail. But I mean, like, it's crazy, because once you put yourself on a platform and people are looking to you, if people are going to be paying you to say that you like something, like, you should.
And then even the worst is the ones who do all this heinous stuff.
Yeah.
And then there's no accountability, and then they get even more famous, and you're just like, so I wonder how much that comes into play.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of wild.
So, not liking the term influencer,
I don't love it. No.
would you classify, how would you classify what you do? Like, are you a content creator? Are you a social media consultant? Are you a marketer? Because I feel like people try to, like, oh, you're a marketer, so you know how to do content. Like, no, I'm a marketing person.
Yes.
Or you're a content person, so you could, I think there's
there's, like, so many different things you could do in, like, every one of those avenues. Like, there are things in marketing that I do. There are things in content creation that I do. There are things in promotional services, PR, that I do, but I don't call myself a marketer, a PR. I don't call myself specifically one of those things. I guess I would say, like, I'm a food blogger. At the end of the day, I'm a food blogger.
Gotcha.
At the end of the day, I'm a content creator, because I think that, and, like, that's honestly what I enjoy doing the most, is creating the content. So yeah, like, I would say that, like, if I were to give myself some title, it'd be like content creator, food blogger, is what I would say.
Yeah. All right. Great, because, like, it reminds me of a joke by Mitch Hedberg, may he rest in peace, where he was like, he's like, yeah, man, I'm a comedian, and I got all these people, like, ask me to write scripts. He's like, that's like me going to a restaurant and talking to the chef, like, yeah, you know how to cook this food, but can you farm? Like, no, they're two totally,
like, no, I don't
like,
do
they're
that.
in the same universe, but
but they're not
the same
necessarily
job.
related. Yeah, exactly.
So I'm glad you cleared that up, because I feel like, especially in that space, more so than other spaces, like, people throw around these terms, and then somebody's like, oh, you could do this other thing too, right?
Yeah.
It's like, not necessarily, no.
Right.
Another question I have is, like, let's say somebody wants to do what you do.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this a little bit before the show started. At what point, and I feel like this is subjective, is there a certain amount of followers or traction that you need to have before you can start reaching out to businesses either for sponsorships or being like, I can help you out? Or is it really just upon the individual who's willing to just reach out?
I mean, I think this is going to be different per the person, because, like, everyone is going to have different time constraints, financial constraints. Like, how much time can you dedicate to your passion project before you're like, wow, I'm neglecting my other things, or, like, I'm losing money by doing this, or everyone's going to be different. When I started Buns and Bites, I paid for all the food. I would, if I never, if Buns and Bites never took off the way it did, I would still be doing it today. If I still had to pay for my food, I would still be doing it today. I just probably wouldn't be able to do it as much, because obviously that's going to get expensive, really expensive, of, like, being able, especially because, like, I'm very particular about when I create content. I'm not going out to dinner at night and, like, taking a picture of my food with flash on. and posting it. Like I only take my pictures during the day. So it's not like I can say like, oh, well, you can just take pictures of the food when you go out to eat. Like, no, I'm very specific and intentional with the content that I create. So yeah, I mean, I think that every person is different. If you've got endless resources and you've got tons of money, then like, yeah, you could do something for free forever and like not care about making money. But so I don't want to speak to it and say like this is a general blanket statement for everyone. For me, I knew that point had come when multiple people started offering to pay me. I have people today who refuse to pay me or to say like, I won't pay an influencer, I won't pay a blogger, I won't pay somebody to come in to post for me on Instagram. That's fine. You will be missing out. And that's all I can say. But yeah, I think that like, as far as when you know, it's going to be per the individual. You could also get to a point where like nobody's asked you to pay you, but you might say like, okay, I'm well established now. I have the experience, I have the skill, I know my value, I put the time into it. So if somebody wants to work with me, regardless of if they ask me what my price is, I'm going to tell them what my price is and say like, yeah, if you want to be on my food blog that I started, it's this much money because this is what my time is worth, because we all put time into our side hustles. And especially if you're trying to grow that into a career, a job, whatever you want to call it, eventually you have to start somewhere. So it's not like once you get to 5,000 followers or 10,000 followers, that doesn't matter. Somebody could offer to pay you with 500 followers. It doesn't matter. It's when at whatever point you feel like your value is demanding that.
So to go along with that, let's say somebody wants to do what you do, or they want to be, God forbid, an influencer. Is there, because not everybody's traction is the same.
Yeah.
Is there a point where it's like, is there a point or a gauge, or is it, again, it could be the whole, it depends up to the individual of, hey, you've been making content for X amount of time and nothing's popped off yet. Maybe you should switch the strategy up.
Yeah. I mean, yes, because social media is constantly evolving, changing, growing. The algorithm changes so fast that once you think that you've gotten the hang of it, it's been changed 3 more times. For me, I have weeks where I'm like, my reels are popping. I got 100,000 views on this reel. And then the next day, something happens and I post something and my views are in the toilet. And there's no rhyme or reason to it. There's nothing I can tell you that's going to say like, oh, well, you should post at 8 a.m. instead of 8:03.
That was going to be my question. Like, it's like, is there a, because you always feel like, oh, it's like, this study found it's 11 a.m. is the perfect time to post. And then it's like another study is like, no, it's 4 p.m. Another study is like 9. And you're like, okay, who the hell do I trust here?
Yeah. I mean, personally, I see this all the time on the internet that's like advice for making your reels blow up or advice to make like your content go viral. Like use these hashtags. Like,
and especially when that person doesn't have a ton of, you're like, well, wait,
yeah.
I mean,
sometimes it is coming from people with a lot of followers, which I think is even worse because I'm like, honey, like, that's like not necessarily true. Like you can't attribute all of your followers and your success to saying that you woke up at 8 a.m. to post on the dot, or like you scheduled your content to be posted at 8 a.m. Like that is not necessarily the case. And guess what? If every person took that advice and posted at 8 a.m., everyone's feeds are overwhelmed and now your post is watered down and no one's seeing it. So I honestly think that like whatever advice you're seeing on social media of like the clickbait of make your content go viral by doing X, Y, Z, like there's honestly like no rhyme or reason to it. In my opinion, good content is going to get seen and engaged with. So if you're making good content, your followers are going to react to it and like they will see it, and it might be a slower growth, but you could try. There's a lot of trial and error, but I have given up on that. Like I have given up on the strategy of like posting at a certain time using these hashtags because like I said, social media platforms have an algorithm that, I mean, I personally don't know how it works. I'm sure that there are lots of people who work in that industry behind the curtain that they know how.
We've got some interesting questions about this
behind the curtain, but I can't keep up with it, and you'll drive yourself crazy if you try to. So I would say just keep your content growing, evolving, changing. Like my content today is very different from what it was last year and the year before that and the year before that. So I would say like keep your content fresh, keep it engaging, keep it organic, natural, true to you. And like on brand, like I would say, if you want to be a food blogger, then like stick with food blogging, because once you start to deviate from that and you say like, oh, but like today I'm posting about walking my dog. Not that you can't post that, but like if every day you're like, oh, I'm a food blogger, but like I'm also posting about teeth whitening, like people are going to not engage with you because they're here for one thing and one thing only. Like I do share little tidbits of my personal life and things that I do that, but like to a certain extent. And I get people asking me all the time, can you promote my, ABC services of these things? And I'm like, it's not food related. And like, it would be a stretch. And like, I don't want to do that. So no.
Can I get into some more strategy, not necessarily social media strategy, but like content style questions? But one question actually that almost escaped me was, what metrics do you use, if any, to determine if a post or a style of post is working right or it's not working right and you need to switch it up or abandon that style of post? What metrics do you use? What metrics do the businesses use? Like, let's say you're offering the services, and is there ever a clash? Because I feel like it's very hard to really measure this stuff in the sense of like, are we measuring eyeballs? Are we measuring clicks? Are we measuring conversions?
Yeah.
Because there's been social media people who have millions of followers, yet they offer a product or something and they can't sell that product for the life of them, and some can.
Absolutely.
So what metrics do you use to determine if a post is working or not working, or a style of post is working or not working? And what metrics do the businesses use? And has there ever been a clash?
So every business, every person will use something different. Like I have people who will say like, oh, and like what I do, like I personally look at my views, because something might not get a lot of likes, but it got a lot of views. And that's really what I want to see, is like how many people are actually looking at my content. So I usually typically, my most important thing for me right now is how many people are looking at my Reels views and my TikTok views. Likes are all well and good, and people are really stuck on likes, and they want to see high likes. That's a lot of people are using that as their measurement for engagement, for success is by likes. I personally like to look at the views. We're seeing a lot more people who want to look at saves and shares now, which are also really important, because if I make a post about a burger joint and I see that 500 people have saved it, that means that 500 people are going back to look for it later when they're like, what was that burger spot again? Because they want to go back and look at it. So it just depends. Everyone has a different gauge for what they're going to attribute like a successful post to. But yeah, I personally am most interested in views at the moment.
Gotcha. And going along with that, why do you think is it that some people, it seems like they have the right metrics, right?
Yes.
Whether they're a content person, an influencer, what have you.
Yeah.
Yet they can't convert it into something that generates money. Because it, like, they say attention is the new currency, and I get it.
Yeah.
But currency is also current.
Yes, of course.
Can you actually convert that into real currency is a whole different question. And, I've heard stories of certain influencers with like tons of followers that hang on their every word, yet they offer a product and they can't even sell the minimum amount to like get the whatever it is made.
Yeah.
What do you think happens there?
I think that everyone, I think that it's specific to the individual. Like for me, I can tell you that when I post a restaurant, people are going to go in and eat there. Like whether they tell you that they found you from Buns and Bites or not, customers that are coming in the door, I'm not saying everyone, but you're going to get new customers that are coming in the door from Buns and Bites. I can guarantee you that. Like if you asked every customer that came in after I posted how they found you, I can guarantee you that some of them, a good percentage of them, are going to be coming from my post. However, when I get Buns and Bites t-shirts, like I don't sell a lot of them. Usually if I get merch, it's because I want the merch, so I'll sell it, and some people will buy it. So I could have 65,000 followers, but that does not mean that I can sell a t-shirt. I can definitely tell you where to go to eat, and it will convert. I cannot tell you that I can put a logo on a t-shirt and sell it, because that's not my brand.
Gotcha.
So I could say like, I have 1 million followers on TikTok. Like you could take someone with 1 million followers on TikTok who's a musician, and they could say like, my followers love me, they engage with me, like they hang on my every word, but I'm doing a show in Dallas this weekend, like see y'all there, and you could sell 10 tickets because, oh, you've got 1 million followers and they're spread throughout the world. Like, yeah, obviously your followers from Michigan, Tennessee, Rhode Island, New Hampshire aren't coming to your show in Dallas. Like, what is your following where you are? So like, I can tell you that my followers are from Rhode Island. I can tell you that I'm trying to grow and branch out, and I'm getting more followers in Massachusetts and Connecticut. And hopefully when I go to those places, people will visit those restaurants. But I think that like the bigger that you get, having a big following doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to like sell at a show, sell at your t-shirts, sell at your merch, all of those things. You might be good at one thing and it might be driving engagement on your social channel, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be able to make money on every other strategy.
So just like art is subjective, I feel like content and quality of content is subjective unless you're getting into a purely technical sense. And so I want to pose this question. There was, I forgot what design blog this was, but it was one of the guys, I think he was involved with Typeform. This is a guy who's done like, really high quality commercials and ads, whether social media or outside of social media for companies. And he was talking about how he did an ad for this like music producers masterclass, and it was really well done, just from like objectively just well done ad. And and he was curious because he did an A/B. So they did that one, and it gained X amount of conversions and signups for that class. As they're filming it, he then grabs the producer, grabs his phone, so he puts away the nice, like they're literally setting up for the shot, and he's like, "Hey, can you just like talk into my phone? I just want to see if this like how this does."
Yeah,
and it's just regular phone. Producer's just talking. It's like vertical instead of landscape, and he's just like, "Hey, here's my masterclass, blah blah blah." Like no script, just off the cuff. That one converted better than the high quality one. So I don't want to say does quality matter, but like, is there like this weird backlash against quality almost? Like people want to see. Do you think people know that there's more stuff going on behind the scenes, but they want to buy into like almost like wrestling? Like, listen, I want to suspend my disbelief and think that this was a homegrown post, even though I know it's a paid ad and it's not a homegrown post.
Yeah, I think that there's a couple layers to this. One, I think that like for me, there's different quality of content per the platform. Like the content that I'm going to post on Instagram, I've curated it. Like it's professional photography. I've taken a lot of time to I put a lot of effort into the reels that I'm making because I want it to look really nice. I want the food to look fantastic. Like I want it to look top notch. I want it to look professional when I post on Instagram. When I post on TikTok is a lot more like raw and rugged, and I'll post a picture of myself. I'll post a video of me talking to the camera about a dinner that I'm having like in bad lighting in my kitchen. And it might get the same views, honestly. But I know that like when I post that on Instagram, it probably won't do as well, if that makes sense. Like cross platforms. So what I post on TikTok, I might not post on Instagram. What I post on Instagram might not do well on TikTok. That being said, I think that to an extent, people really want to see a more real side to the people that they follow on social media. So that's why I think that like the guy that you spoke about, I can't remember his name now, who did this awesome, like high quality production. Yeah, I got some views on the masterclass, but when he was like, "Oh, hey, it's me. Like, you should come take my masterclass. Like, this is like a little bit more like real and personable." They're like, "Oh my god! Like, I feel like that's like way more like I can connect with that better than saying like it's more him. It's more genuine." If that makes sense.
And I get that, but on the flip side of that, then it's like, does quality matter? And it's like, well, then why should I even just to kind of like take a 10,000 foot view of it? Why should I even buy a nice camera? Who gives a shit? Apparently nobody else does. Or like you'll see like a really well produced, like slickly produced thing that probably took a lot of time and effort and skills and people who poured there, and it gets like 10 views, and then like I don't know, somebody just dancing in their kitchen. Not that I have anything against dancing in their kitchen. Gets like 1 million views. And so I could see why somebody would be like, well, why am I even giving a shit about the quality if I'm not going to grow? Why even bother?
I understand that. But I do think that like I said, like I have different takes on quality of content per the platform. And I think that you just have to I wouldn't say like read the room, but like I know that if I went to Tomaselli's right now and I took a picture of their chicken parm that looks really good, and I took a bad picture of it, and I'm like, I don't really give a fuck about content anymore. I'm just going to take I'm not going to care to put effort into content anymore. I'll still get engagement on Instagram, but it's not going to be the same engagement that I get when I put the effort into making it look really good and shooting it during the day and having a professional photographer come. And therefore, if I'm not going to get the same engagement, then restaurants aren't going to really care to work with me if I don't put the effort into my content. Like, why do people want to work with me? But I do see that like yeah, why would you? If you're seeing somebody with 1 million views on TikTok and all they did was dance in their kitchen, you're going to say, well, why should I care to put effort and money behind what I'm working on if this guy can get 1 million views by having bad content? Not bad content, but like lower quality content. Yeah, it is. I mean, it's just a part of social media today. And I think that you have to maneuver that, like per instance. I mean, like I said, like there are things that I would put on TikTok I wouldn't put on Instagram and vice versa.
So with that being said, who do you follow and what do you think separates, or what qualities do you think makes a good marketer / content creator / all the terms versus somebody who's subjectively not good at it?
Oh my God. Well, I mean, I know I can tell you that like on Instagram, people that I follow like The Grub Father and The Naughty Fork and Sweet Portfolio. And these are all like big food bloggers that are from out of state, and they all have gorgeous content. They clearly have like professional quality content. And I love seeing it. I love seeing their content because it looks so good. But then on the other hand, when the people that I follow on TikTok, I mean, one of my favorite people on TikTok is Drew Afualo. I'm honestly probably saying her name wrong, but I am obsessed with her. And half the time she films her content like on the toilet in her bathroom, like in bad lighting, and it crushes. So yeah, I mean, it's just different per the person. But when I'm looking, it depends on like what I'm looking at. Like if I'm looking at food, I want it to look good. I don't want to look at bad content of food. I would honestly rather not see it. But when I'm looking at someone who I am trying to connect with them and they're trying to get a message across, then yeah, of course, it doesn't really matter the quality of content.
So going along with that, this is another trope I've heard, and I definitely want to get your opinion on it. I think it was Gary Vee. Nothing against Gary Vee. I think he says a lot of smart things, but then there's certain things where I'm like, how? He would say, if you're a business, you need to put 12 to 15 pieces of content out a day across every single platform. Okay, we'll just go with that. Is there a certain amount, whether you're on the business side or the creation side or the marketing side, amount of pieces of content? And I get the whole make a macro and then cut it up into micro, but then you have to contextualize it, and that takes time. And and especially if you're trying to do this as a side hustle, it's like, how much can you possibly do? So is there a minimum or maximum? I'm going to say Hal. That's a 2001: A Space Odyssey reference, kids. Will the algorithm Hal like you better if you post more versus if you don't post more? Because it seems like, is there even a rhyme or reason to that? Have you seen that on your end?
Yeah, I have not seen that on my end. I have not seen the algorithm favor people who post more or post less. And honestly, I think that telling someone to post 12 times a day, like I think about, if I gave that advice to a restaurant, that's a really good way for your followers to get really tired of seeing your content and for you to run out of ideas of content to make, and for you to make the excuse of posting bad content because you're going for quantity over quality. So if I was giving a restaurant advice on posting on Instagram, I would say posting once a day is more than enough. And I would say lean on good quality content rather than saying like pump out as much content. Doesn't matter if it's good quality or not. Like, I think that's like the opposite of the advice that I would give someone.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, because after this I was worrying. I'm like, I didn't have time to post anything
12 times today.
Yeah, I didn't have time to post anything across any of my accounts today, and now I don't feel as bad, because honestly after this I'm grabbing a bite and I'm relaxing a little bit. But now it's like, no, you gotta post all the time.
No.
Feed the algorithm, feed the beast.
I do this for a living, and I don't post every day. And I post a good amount, but I don't post every day. So the idea of me having to post 12 times a day is absolutely asinine, and I would never tell anyone to do that. I think that Gary Vee has a great platform himself, but like, I don't think that that's going to be the road to success.
I don't know if it was 12 times, but it was like 12 pieces of content across the platforms. And it's just like, what?
Say that. He's saying like, you need to just pound people with content. Like, you need to just like constantly be posting content, and like that is the mindset of quantity over quality, and like that is the opposite of what I believe in.
Now, going along with that, another interesting thing that pops up, and I think it was actually, he might have actually been the one to bring it up. How do I decide if my content is subjectively good or bad? And it's like, let the market decide. And we talked about this earlier. If we were to let the market decide, I mean, yay, capitalism. If we were to let the market decide, then wouldn't everyone's feed basically just be like borderline or full-on pornography and like fist fights and like
Yeah.
red pill manosphere or whoever panders to them. And also, if anybody listens to this, like, you hate the manosphere, and yeah, I do. Get at me. I don't. It's stupid. But or just controversial, edgy, like not even edgy, controversial edgelord stuff for the sake of controversial edgelord stuff.
Yeah.
So if you would let the market decide, it would just be all trends. Nothing new or creative would come out. So
nothing genuine.
So is that really a good? Like I get it. And I don't get it because I'm like, because then everything would just be trend or following a trend.
Right.
Nothing would be original.
Right.
So what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I don't like that. I don't think that you should just say like, let the market dictate that, especially because, like I said, it leads to nothing genuine. You're just going to be saying like, well, I'll do whatever it takes. I'll do whatever is going to get me clicks, which like basically you'd be saying I'm only going to create clickbait content, which is just not like, and then if everybody is making it, then all you're seeing is you're just inundated with clickbait content. So I'm not in line with that at all. And yeah, I think that there's also like a niche for everyone. Like there's something specific that like everybody wants to follow. So if everybody was just like, I'm going to do whatever is like crazy and controversial and clickbait, that's going to like let the market dictate what I create my content around. Like we're all going to be making the same things and we're not going to be able to see like what you actually are interested in. Like I love when I see TikTok content about earwax removal. Like that is very specific, but I love seeing those videos. I think that they're crazy. So if you just like let the market dictate what you post, you're not going to post your earwax removal video from the ENT because you're like, oh, the market's not dictating this because it's not like,
oh, I have to do a dance while I do it.
Yeah, I've got to do a dance while I do it because that's what's trending. Like, no, I really just want to see your footage as a doctor removing this earwax.
Well, that's why you got so many people doing if I have to see one more of these, I'm going to lose my shit. The people who like, they shake their head, but then they point up at the thing above them of how you should pay attention to it. But I'm like, but you're shaking your head, so you're telling me I shouldn't pay attention to it?
Yeah.
But you're like, and then I have to hear like, no, listen, no. I'm like, all right, if I have to do this one more time, I'm gonna punch somebody in the mouth. Like, I can't deal with this.
To an extent, there are trends. And like as far as trends, like, yeah, trending audio is huge. And if you're making reels as a business owner,
as a DJ, it has ruined certain songs for me. And
I'm sure because you're like, I've heard it 100,000 times. I think that trending audio is definitely like a good way to like make good content and like get it seen more. But like also, once it gets tired, like stop doing it. Like we need to let things go. Doing trends, like, yes, it's a trend and we need to like recognize it for what it is. But again, like once trends get oversaturated, I think people have a hard time letting them go. And they're like, well, this is trending, so I need to do it. And it's like, no, people are sick of it and we don't want to see it anymore.
What is your opinion on, because I think we're getting to an interesting, not a conclusion, but an interesting, I would say hypothesis maybe at this point, just because it's hard to be definitive here. An interesting hypothesis of you cannot really predict this shit, but there are literal companies and agencies that are dedicated to this, just that. So an example would be Brendan Kane. I think he's written a couple books about going viral, and like he's like, oh, I've taken accounts from zero and made them go viral because I have a proven method. And he's like, has a whole company dedicated to it, and you pay him a crap ton of money for him to help your business and make it go viral. And he's like, well, we based on certain things, and some of the stuff he talks about makes sense. Like, people want to be entertained. Some people want information. I'm like, okay, it's starting to make sense. And it's like, yeah, from all our data, like we can actually like produce content that will go viral. I'm like, how the hell are you predicting that? So is there a science to this? Like, is there a science on the back end where if you have enough data points, if you have enough posts, you can start like extrapolating? Like, is that even possible? Are we going to get to a point where AI... And is it gonna get more boring? Like we already have AI now, but is it gonna get more formulaic because people just want the ROI, especially if you're a business? Screw the creative, I don't care if how the algorithm or this other business that has made other businesses go viral tells me your posts need to be in this tone, just slap your brand on it, but you need to do this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Is there any truth to that? Is that a fear? Are we going towards that possibly?
So let me first just say I've got about like 10 minutes before I need to wrap.
All right.
So, I mean, I think that that's personally, and again, like I'm not going to sit here and say, I'm sure there are plenty of businesses who bought his book or used his service and saw great success. But I think that that's not applicable to every person. You can't say that like if I Buns and Bites hire that guy, he's going to make me famous and like make me go viral and make me blow up. Like I can't guarantee that. I don't think that really anyone, unless you work for Instagram, I don't really care what data you have. I don't think that any of us can really for sure say that we know what it takes to go viral because it's a lot of it is so random.
And going along with that, because I wanted to ask this, so we only got a couple questions left, and I want to be respectful of your time. And I love this term, and I hope it shows up in textbooks because it's a hilarious term. Because I have the humor of a 12-year-old. Put shit in anything and I'll start laughing.
Yes.
The shitification of platforms. And this was by author and activist Cory Doctorow. And basically he was referencing of how platforms get shitty because first they get the public drawn in, then they get that. Then they take that and they go to business and say, hey, you can reach these amount of people and we'll shove that post from that business down their throats, whether they want it or not. Then they'll take that. And then once the businesses are done, then they go, oh, you want that reach? Okay. Like you were saying before, you want that reach? Now you're gonna have to pay for it. Then the final part is they grab the customer's data and they sell the data off and do nefarious things with it. He referenced a, as far as going viral, he goes, does anything actually go viral organically? Or, TikTok, he's like, makes it seem like everybody's making money on it, but it's really one or two people. And it's one or two people that TikTok chose. And he referenced a Forbes article where they could turn up the heat on a post. And it's really the algorithm, the company behind it picking who gets to go viral.
Yes.
And it's not really organic. So, hot take. Does anything actually organic go viral, or are we just gambling? Are we at the casino table of the algorithm and of the platform, and it's just like roll the dice and see what happens?
We don't know, and we'll truly go mad trying to figure it out. Like, I really believe that. Like, I think that if you're sitting here listening to this and you're one of those people who are thinking like, wow, I'm disappointed. Like, I wish that my content was getting better engagement. Like, please don't beat yourself up because none of us know what's going on. And I did see that article about TikTok where they were saying that there's like almost like a hot button, like the Staples easy button is what I would picture it, like a big red button that they're going to hit and say like this video goes viral. Like this content creator, when they make a video or pressing the button, it goes viral, which is kind of crazy.
And it's the whole county. And he said it's like a county fair. Like if you see a guy walking with a big teddy bear in a county fair, he didn't win the shell game.
Right.
The guy let him win the shell game. So he has the big teddy bear and he walks through the county fair. And now you want to go play that game because you think you actually have a chance of getting it, but you really don't.
Right. So it's the same thing as like what we were talking about with like paid promotions and how they're going to limit your engagement. Like once they know that you're willing to pay, like TikTok has the creator fund. And if you have more than 10,000 followers on TikTok, you can join the creator fund and they will pay you per view. Now it's like pennies. It's like a penny per view. So basically, this has led people to believe that they can make money from creating content on TikTok. And then Reels started doing it too, where they were like, did you know that you can earn bonuses with your Reels?
Yeah,
up to
I think Twitch was doing something like that as well. Like every platform's doing a version of it.
But at the same time, like if you look at it, like you know that Instagram doesn't want to pay you. You know that TikTok doesn't want to pay you.
The house wants the advantage.
Exactly. And they do. Ultimately, like they say, the house always wins. They do. They have the advantage. They don't want to pay you. They want to lure you in and get you thinking, if I make a bunch of content, I might get to 10,000 followers. And if I get to 10,000 followers, then I can start making money and I can actually get income from TikTok. But if TikTok doesn't want to pay you, once you get the 10,000 followers and you join the creator fund, I've talked to so many people who got to 10,000 followers, joined the creator fund, and they went from being like, yeah, I'd get like thousands of views per video. And like now I get 100.
Going along with that, is there ever concern with platform diversification? Like, hey, you're on one platform, as we could see, a billionaire could buy it tomorrow and drive it into the ground.
Yes.
How do you deal with that? Like, are you like constantly on the lookout for other platforms to get onto, or like having to like tell your audience like, hey, go here, or hey, I'm here now? Like, has that ever been a concern of yours in the back of your mind? Like, hey, this platform can go away tomorrow.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, that's why I made my website and I made it the way I did, that like it's a searchable.
So a good reason to have a website.
A good reason to have a website, because tomorrow TikTok could be gone, Instagram could be gone, and all the people that have created, like I've created a business through social media platforms and they could be gone tomorrow. So I needed a place that I know that people could still find me And I could still produce content via my website that will always be there because I own it.
And why branding is important.
And branding is very important, everyone. If you're doing anything online, like definitely invest in branding because it's very important. But yeah, I mean, like if you've been following the news on TikTok, it's on the chopping block. The US government is trying to ban TikTok, and all of the people that have been like completely putting all of their eggs in the TikTok basket are scrambling and trying to get on Instagram right now. And who knows what could happen with Instagram? Same thing could happen with Instagram. We don't know. It could be shut down tomorrow. So personally, I fought being on TikTok. I didn't want to do it because I was just like every other millennial who was like, oh, I don't want to be on TikTok. It's just kids doing dances. And then once I actually got there, I really liked the app and I really enjoyed being on it. And I've seen some success with it. But at the same time, I do think to an extent, like you shouldn't bend over backwards and kill yourself over trying to be on every platform. Like I'm not on Snapchat. Don't really have much of a presence on Twitter, but I think that you should diversify and not just limit yourself to one single platform. If this is something that you're trying to do, like if you're trying to really grow your brand, then yeah, you should be on Facebook, TikTok, whatever the platform is that's relevant to what you're doing. Like if you're a gamer, you should be on Twitch. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, you should be on YouTube.
It's got to be contextual to what you're trying to do and what your end game is.
Exactly. So yes, you should diversify because as we've seen what happened with Twitter, we're seeing TikTok potentially be gone forever. And all those people are probably freaking the fuck out right now.
I mean, people were on Vine and they couldn't make the switch and look what happened.
Look at that. So you don't want to have all of your work for naught. You don't want to have all of the investment be for nothing. So get yourself a website, like have a place that should the platform be gone tomorrow, because really Instagram just owns it. TikTok owns it. Like they could just delete your account tomorrow for all they care and it could just be gone forever.
And they have to post about that because I was able to make the website for this show for $12.
Yes.
A year.
Yeah, so that's the thing.
It's not that hard, people.
You don't have to have you don't have to spend $3,000 on a website. Like have if you are working on a brand, have a website. It's very important.
Final two questions.
Yes.
One, what problems are you dealing with right now at this stage in your business? I know you were talking about, we're in the office of Honey Buns.
Honey Buns.
Which is a new offshoot business that probably has its set of issues. But what's one major issue you're facing right now that you're looking to overcome? And then sub question to that, are there things that people don't see that you wish you could kind of pull back the curtain and be like, no, there's a lot more that goes on behind the scenes that you don't realize?
Well, it's not that there's a lot more that goes on behind the scenes, but I think that like the perception of like, oh, like you're just a blogger, like you take pictures of food and you post it, but like I am extremely passionate about this. Buns and Bites is my baby. Like I've spent the past 6 years building it up to where it is now. And I see a lot of people who I talk to, especially like in the restaurant industry, working on their Instagrams. They're like, well, I made a post and it didn't get 100 likes. And like, I deserve to have all of these like thousands and thousands and thousands of followers. And I'm like, okay, but like, or they'll say like, well, you did this and like, you have all these followers. And I'm like, yeah, it took me 6 years of like nonstop continuous effort and work on it. And like, I don't just like take a picture on my phone and post it. Like I work really hard on that.
And I'm guessing there's probably some problems you're facing now that you're dealing with.
Yeah. I mean, I think that like, as far as problems that I'm facing now, it's more of just like growing pains of like, okay, well, like, how do I branch out? Like, how am I doing the right thing? I want to do this. Like, I don't know that I have like any specific problems that I'm facing right now. It's more of just like, I want to continue to grow. I want to do it the right way. I want to still have like my presence and be connected to people. And just like have success in my brand.
So final question, where do you see, so it's a future and past question.
Yes.
Where do you see the future of Buns and Bites going? Maybe idealistically.
Yes.
So that's the future part. The past part would be, what advice would you have given to a younger you?
Yeah. So I see Buns and Bites, if everything worked out for me and I just like happened to fall into some good luck, like Buns and Bites would continue to exponentially grow and I would have businesses out of state. My radius would continue to expand and I'd have restaurants out of state who would want me to come in and dine with them. Would be awesome. Like in 5 years from now, I really hope that I'm in Los Angeles New York, I'm like in Chicago. I'm going all over
global
the place.
domination.
Global domination. You're going to see these Buns in Paris. Like, I don't know. That's ultimately like, I really hope that I can expand as much as I can, because I would love to be all over the world eating and looking at butts with people and making booty friends all over the world. But my past person, what I would tell them is to be nicer to yourself and to trust the process. And I'm glad I did. I mean, I did trust the process, and I would tell myself, you're doing the right thing, and to not give up on it. Because it is very easy to say like, oh my God, I've been posting on Instagram and this feels so stupid. It feels for nothing. I don't make money, but I'm going to give it up. And I think I'm really glad that I didn't, because I've had those moments where I'm like, there's so many people that are better than me. But I'd go back and tell myself that you're not those people. You are you, and you need to love yourself and give yourself more credit and a pat on the back, and to just keep doing it as long as you still love doing it. So if I would tell myself, my future self, something, hopefully if I'm in, another country 5 years from now, posting for Buns and Bites, like, please only do this if you still love doing it. Right now, I absolutely love doing it. I'm obsessed with Buns and Bites. I love it so much. But if I ever get to a point where I'm like, I don't love doing this, it's more of a job now, then I'm going to put it down. And that's that.
So hopefully you'll enjoy this food reference to wrap this up, because I stole this from Hot Ones. But you didn't have to eat a ton of wings.
I did not.
That, just put you on another level of the Scoville scale. Final words are yours. The floor is yours. You can say whatever you want, ramble about whatever you want. The floor is yours. So what do you want the final words to end the show out to be?
My final words would be that if you're listening to this, I'm guessing that you've got really good taste in podcasts because you follow the creative capital. And if you're listening to this, you might like Buns and Bites. And I just have to be very appreciative to all of my followers, all of the people who have supported me, because y'all have truly been like ride or dies. There have been so many great people. I love saying hi to you on the street. So if you see me out at a cafe or looking like a bum in Stop and Shop, please say hi. I love meeting everyone out in public.
That's how I met you, to get you on the show.
We were out at Thick Neck. I love meeting everyone and making new friends. I've honestly made so many friends from Buns and Bites, and it makes me so happy. But I just am very appreciative. I'm very, very grateful. I'm grateful for what the future holds for Buns and Bites. And just a quick plug to my new business, Honey Buns. I started with my photographer friend, Jackalak, who, if you don't follow her, you should follow her too, because her photography is just bomb as fuck. And our friend Sasha Roberts, who is another marketing guru. And the three of us together are coming together to help small businesses in Rhode Island with social media management, because obviously we spend a lot of time on Instagram, and we are just doing our best to help clients, to help specifically restaurants, but we are branching out of just the food industry and helping people manage their Instagrams, because a lot of our clients are business owners who are like, yeah, I'm in the kitchen cooking right now and I can't think about what I have to post on Instagram. And that's where we come in, and we do our best to help make your Instagram look clean, look good, and utilize the tools, the branding tools and the social tools that are going to bring in new customers and therefore new dollars. So yeah, big shout outs to Little Rhodey, to Providence. Rhode Island is always home, no matter where I am. I'm so in love with Rhode Island. I'm just so grateful to be here.
Well, with that,
yes,
thank you so much for coming on.
Thank
the
you
show.
for having me.
Much appreciated. You wanted to come on and share your knowledge and experience.
Yes.
And with that, everyone, thank you for listening. And this has been the Creative Capital Show. Until next time, keep on creating.
Thank you.
And that's it for this episode of the Creative Capital Show. Thank you for listening, and a special thanks goes to this episode's guest, Laura Afonso. The Creative Capital Show is hosted, recorded, edited, mixed, and produced by me, Jason Sylvia. You can listen to the Creative Capital Show over at our website, creativecapitalshow.com. We're also available on Anchor FM, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and all other major podcast hosting platforms. If you like the show, please subscribe. Helps the show out a lot. And be sure to follow the show on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, LinkedIn, and YouTube. I hope you enjoyed the show, and until next time, keep on creating.